overuse of my rotator cuff, and I remember hearing it snap and feeling it snap, and not uncommon, I guess, as a middle infielder, dropping down and throwing at a lower angle. And this was in 2006. I was sent home with 90 Percocets. For somebody like me, that was the worst thing that they could have done.
So my first injury was during basketball season. I dove for a loose ball and I twisted my knee and kind of tried to walk it off and noticed something felt funny. So I went to the doctor, they did an MRI, and I had a torn meniscus. While I was in high school and shortly after, I had another 2 surgeries, so I always had prescriptions around. It was pretty readily available.
From the time he was probably, I would say, 8, 9 years old, he played baseball, basketball, then he got into football in high school. Just loved football. He played it for 2 years. In 2008, he got an injury. He fractured his ankle and pulled a hamstring. He went to the doctor, and of course, like any doctor, they have to do something for the pain, so he thought, okay. I had no problem with it. At that time, I didn't know, about opiates and anything like that. So I gave him medication, let him do it on his own. He's 16 years old. The pills were running out very quickly. So he's, Mom, I'm in pain. I need to go back to the doctor. I take him back to the doctor, of course. Doctor prescribes another prescription with no problem.
We know that teens and adolescents don't have fully formed brains, and so some of the control centers of the brain and some of the centers of the brain that help with thought and processing and also reward the idea of how high or how good you feel from a substance aren't fully formed in the brain, and exposures to substances, including alcohol, tobacco, but opioids as well, even though these are prescription medications, have the potential to lead a young adult towards higher rates of addiction later in life.
And the injuries that soccer had given me, by the time I was in 8th grade, I was already prescribed Vicodin. By the time I was a sophomore, I was being prescribed morphine, and that eventually that chemical addiction just took over.
I played football and I wrestled, and I was a great football player, and I was a varsity football player by the time I was 16 years old, and I got an injury and the doctor prescribed me Vicodin. And as a result of being prescribed Vicodin, I picked up this addiction, and I was addicted to pills, and I was a kid.
Perception of risk was really low because it was prescribed by a doctor, so I didn't see any reason why I couldn't take it whenever I felt the need to take it.
I'm in my sling, ice pack is still on there, Mom's sitting right next to me, and I had that bottle in my pocket. I had just taken my first one right there in that picture, and I was starting to feel high. And it's like, at that moment right there, my mom next to me with that bottle in my pocket, if she would have known what was in my pocket, if she would have known that little piece of plastic with some pills in it was gonna rob her of the next 10 years of her life and possibly kill me, she would have burned that thing, So like that picture, it was like very symbolic. I took one, and very quickly the tolerance went up. So what one did at first, it wasn't doing it anymore. So now I had to take 2, and then it was 4. And of course I was taking them not just for pain, I was taking them for pleasure because I loved it. So within a week, 90 Percocets were gone, and it was supposed to last me, I don't know, a month, 2 months.
Cody lived on the streets. He lived in abandoned buildings. He robbed drug dealers. He did everything he possibly could to get his hands on heroin. That morning, my husband found him. My son swallowed all the packets of heroin. Died instantly, according to what they're telling me. He ingested enough heroin and take that bag of heroin and fentanyl. The fentanyl was enough to kill 15 people.
Everything was diminishing. Like, my skills were going down, my focus was going down, my grades were going down. I was late to practice, and I was falling less in love with baseball and more in love with Oxycontin. Every single day, every time I snorted it, I had this awesome life, private schools, sports, family that loved me, all the potential in the world, straight A's, college career, potential Major League Baseball player, to this homeless guy that now couldn't even afford an Oxycontin. Now I'm shooting heroin because that's the next best thing, and it's cheaper and it's stronger and it's always available wherever you go in any major city.
We understand what it means to play, baseball every single day, and how quickly someone can become addicted to these drugs. Baseball inherently is an unnatural sport, overhand throwing and rotational, puts a lot of stress on the elbows, shoulders, joints, hips, knees. One wrong injury, one shoulder surgery, one elbow surgery, all of a sudden, Oxycontin and Vicodin, and you're hooked and you could be out of baseball.
Doesn't matter what sport you're playing, doesn't matter what your last name is, doesn't matter what degrees your parents have or what neighborhood you grew up in. When you fall in love with that substance, all that stuff goes out the window, and your primary objective is to get another one, and you'll step on anybody or anything and cross any boundaries that the normal you never would have done.
You have a duty to your child to make sure you understand what you're handing out to him. Even if it does come from the doctor, you become the conduit that's giving him that substance, him or her that substance. So ask the questions. Is this really necessary? Do you need 60 Vicodin, or can you get away with 3 of them and then take Motrin? Or can you get away with none of them?
Those kids who get an opioid are more likely to move down a path of chronic use. And so I think it is important for parents to always consider how appropriate each prescription opioid pain medication is. And that can be a challenging place for parents to be questioning the physician that's caring for their child or the dentist that's caring for their child, but you certainly have to be your own advocate.
They're not going to probably ask questions. They're probably not going to push back. So they're going to do what they're told, which is written on the prescription. And I think that's another problem that we have. And that's why the parents have to really wrap and engage and let their children know it's okay to question the taking of pain medication and narcotics.
There are so many different reasons why we need to be more cognizant of what we're taking, what our family's taking, what our kids are taking, other than just long-term addiction or even overdose and death. I see people every single day that don't make it. Every single day I wake up to some sort of overdose message or email or Facebook post. People that were just like me. And I think, why did I make it out and they didn't? This can all be avoided. All this stuff can be avoided, and it doesn't need to get to the point that it gets to.